Hi, and welcome back to We Are Here Too, a podcast about mental health and life abroad. My name is Francesca, an Italian counsellor living in Scotland. And this season, we've been exploring relationships, the ones we have with ourselves, with others, and the world around us. And I would like to start today's episode talking about the tension that we sometimes feel within ourselves, the pull between different parts of who we are. I've been thinking a lot about how identity shifts don't always happen suddenly. So sometimes they unfold quietly, almost without us noticing. And one day, we are certain about who we are, and then slowly that certainty starts to feel like less clear. So, for example, I'm going to share a wee story with you. When I started moving abroad, the very first time, I felt incredibly special, especially on my way back home. I was the person who knew many languages, had adapted to new places, I had stories of living somewhere else. I felt like I was an exciting person to share with the world. And then after many years of being away from home and getting to know people who've traveled as much and had as many stories as I did, I did not feel special anymore. And I was just someone who lived abroad, and I did not know what that even meant for me anymore. And I believe that there's a tension there, isn't there? Between who we've been and who we are becoming, between feeling grounded in that certainty, for example, in my case, that I was special, and then this feeling of being disconnected, like untethered, like who am I if I don't have that quality about me anymore, or I cannot tap into that anymore because I've met so many other people sharing exactly the same quality that I thought was really special to me. And I think that's where a lot of the discomfort came from for me. Not because I lost myself, but because I was trying to make sense of all of these different parts. The person who actually has a lot of qualities that can be really relatable, and then the person actually felt special because these qualities were not as relatable before. I do believe that living abroad adds another layer to this. Our social networks expand and shrink, sometimes in very unpredictable ways. One moment we feel fully integrated, and the next we are standing in a room where we can't quite follow the conversation because of a language barrier. And that's the uncertainty too, wondering if our legal status will be questioned or if we'll need to defend our place in the new country we now call home. And that tension between belonging and feeling on the outside can make identity feel even harder to hold on to. But I'm also thinking about that time where I was in this group of friends, and eventually slowly but surely we all moved out. So by the time I actually went back for a visit to visit a couple of friends who stayed there, I had this feeling of a bit of discomfort. I loved the idea that I still have friends there, so I could still go back and visit. But going back there and not having the same support network around, that it only shrunk to a couple of people, which I'm forever grateful for. Well, that was quite a shock, to be fair. And I visited a few places that once used to be home, and those places being stripped of the people who lived there. And it makes me very nostalgic, but also as if that place has lost its meaning. I actually would like to pause on this for a second, because there is a lot of sadness in that. but also on the other side, I can see how much, at least of my meaning making process, I attribute good qualities to places that are filled with love and with connections. But one way of looking at all of this is that once we are living with this tension of who am I, why am I cannot recognize my real me, and at times this is very dependent on the support network that we have around. Sometimes the outcome that I reached or that I've reached fairly recently is that all of these different parts of me, the person who felt special because she was the only one living abroad and speaking languages, and the other part who actually felt very relatable to others, or the part who had like a lot of friends, and compared to the part that actually had only a couple of friends left and felt a bit like out of place in a place that she used to call home once. All of these parts, they were all me. They've all been part of me, and they didn't need to be forced into one single voice, or they didn't need to suppress one so that the others could leave. I've learned in this process that actually a dialogue is always better. And in this case, is a dialogue among different parts of me that at times they've been incredibly helpful and useful. So I've learned that being whole isn't about blending everything into one smooth identity. This is not like a mash. It's not a potato mash, okay? Sometimes it's about accepting the tension. Letting different parts of ourselves speak without rushing to make them fit neatly together. And that's not easy, and it's very unsettling, but it's also okay. We're not meant to feel perfectly steady all the time. What I find true is that when we are caught in this uncertainty, it's hard to know where to turn. And sometimes looking inward can feel impossible. And that's why I believe that finding steadiness is something outside of ourselves can be such a powerful thing. And I recorded an episode last week about this, so go and check if you haven't done so already. But the point being, the truth is, we all carry moments of self-doubt and self-loathing when we're feeling unsteady, and that can spill into our relationships. Not because we are fragile or because we are sabotaging things, but because when we are unsure of ourselves, it's hard to trust that others see us clearly too. We second guess, we withdraw, we brace ourselves for hurt, and I found that when I can connect with something steady, whether that's nature, a ritual, or a familiar practice, it creates a little more space for those relationships to feel safer. And it doesn't make everything easy, but it does soften the feeling that everything's about to fall apart. And if there is one thing I'd want you to take away from this, it's that you don't have to feel fully grounded before you can connect with others. Sometimes the anchor you find in a friendship or in a shared moment with someone is the thing that helps us find our footing again. And this is where I want to talk about integration, because when we've spent so much time feeling scattered between different identities, different places, different versions of ourselves, there's a real temptation to pick just one, to say, this is who I am now, and let everything else fade. But integration isn't about picking a side. It's about learning how to carry all of those different parts with you. And the person you were before you moved abroad, the person you've become, and the person you're still growing into, they can really still grow together and exist together. And I've learned that integration is less about merging everything neatly and more about giving space. And giving space for those parts to coexist. And it's about trusting that the quieter, more uncertain pieces of ourselves still have a place. And for me, integration has been often about slowing down, so about noticing when I'm trying to reject a part of myself just to feel more certain. And when I can hold to that discomfort without rushing to fix it, I start to feel more whole. And it's not easy and it's not linear, and some days I still feel like I don't quite fit, like I'm too far from home and not fully present where I am. But the more I let these different pieces belong to me, the less I feel I have to prove myself or others, or even to myself, anything. So if you're feeling caught between different parts of who you are, if you're trying to make sense of who you've been or who you're becoming, know that you don't have to choose, and you're really allowed to be all of it. As we wrap up this episode, in this first part of the season, we've journeyed through our inner landscape, exploring the ways in which we connect with ourselves. And as we take a brief pause before moving into our next chapter, I want to give you a little preview of what's to come. We're going to shift our focus outward to that flow between us, so our relationships with others. We'll dive into the complexities of distance and intimacy and how our connections with others are constantly shifting. And I'm really excited to continue this exploration with you soon, so stay tuned as we navigate relationships when living abroad. And with that, we are now at the end of another episode. I'm taking a wee break next week to celebrate my birthday, and I'll be back with you another episode on the 6th of April. See you then. Bye.